Hi, everyone. I'm Nicole Dement. I am an evolutionary astrologer, a certified theta healer, and an intuitive artist that blends all of those things for a very special astrology reading and session that supports your soul's journey and hopes to find the whole version of who you are and support that as you move forward. Usually I do these sessions live. I am recording this ahead of time because I have a little bit more to share than the 15 minutes that I allot. So this is July 4th, 2020, and I'm going to share a little bit about the astrology of the moment. In this, I am going to expand beyond just the Sun, Moon, Mars, Venus, Mercury, and the rest of the normal planets that people talk about. Because again, just like in the work that I do, there's a more holistic version of what's happening right now, especially as we look at the changes that need to be made in society, and that includes the revisions that we need to make to the history of what we know as our modern world. Okay, so let's dive in. Let me just pull up the screen here. All right. So on a full moon, you have the sun opposite the moon. That is what makes it full. And we have the Earth in the center here on this eclipse on July 4th. That's going to happen around 9:44 p.m. Pacific time. And I normally do a meditation that's going to be tomorrow at noon, July the 5th at noon. It will be live streamed. So I hope you can join me for that. So the chart, excuse me. So the sun in Cancer is about home. Cancer is a water sign. It is about nurturing. And it's really supported in all of those factors because it is conjunct or at the same degrees of Vesta, is also at 13 degrees of Cancer. So Vesta is the goddess of the hearth. She keeps the spark alive, keeps that fire nurturing and warm. And that is conjunct the sun in Cancer. Also in Cancer, we have Mercury at 7 degrees. Mercury is what we think about. It hopefully is in effect right now as I try to put these words together to describe this moment in time. All of these things in Cancer are blended together. So the sun is our essence, and in Cancer, we are really drawn to being together with family and friends and opening our hearts and nurturing and feeding each other. We talk about picnics and really spending time together. Now, and of course, with Mercury there, we want to talk, we want to communicate, and we want to talk about the things that we care about, that our hearts open to, together with family. So all of that is opposite the moon in Capricorn. If you've been watching and attending my live streams of my meditations and these prefaces of the archetypes that I go into in the meditation, then you've heard me talk about Capricorn a lot. Or if you've talked to other astrologers, you've heard about Capricorn a lot this year. So Pluto, our friend Pluto, the dwarf planet that is about death and regeneration. It is at 24 degrees Capricorn. It has been in Capricorn since 2008 and will be in Capricorn until 2024, though 2023, it will move back and forth between the end of Capricorn and Aquarius. So this year is significant because we also have Saturn in Capricorn and Jupiter in Capricorn. In fact, Jupiter is at 23 degrees Capricorn right now at this full moon. Pluto's at 24 degrees and Saturn is at 29. So this is a stellium in Capricorn, excuse me, when you have all of these planets together. And additionally, we have the asteroid for Pallas Athene also known as Athena. I'm going to talk more about Athena and Vesta, as well as some other of our friends from history that really add another flavor to what's going on right now. So Capricorn. Capricorn is systems. It's rules and regulations. It's the limitations that we understand how to define ourselves and how to define reality. So with the moon in Capricorn, now the moon is ruled by Cancer. So in its opposite sign of Capricorn, there is a stoic quality to the emotions, which is what the moon rules. Now, Capricorn is, excuse me, as I mentioned, in transition with Pluto there, the planet of death and regeneration. I had to take a drink, sorry. So Pluto in Capricorn is, I like to describe Pluto as a tsunami, right? So tsunamis, it creates that shaking below the surface at the bottom of the ocean. And while everything was just fine hanging out down at the bottom of the ocean, Pluto shakes that up. And the waves start to push and pull everything from the bottom of the ocean to the surface. And it pulls it up, and everything that was hidden, everything that was below the surface is now seen. Pluto requires for the process of being seen and releasing to happen. So we see this in corporations, we see this in religious circles, we see this in family dynamics right now. Since 2008, Pluto has been in Capricorn, so we have seen the greed and the corruption and all of the hidden surface, all the hidden things below the surface that are coming up. Corporations, religions, politics, governments. We see the shadow so clearly now projected on stage and very prevalent to us with Pluto and Capricorn, especially in this last decan of the sign. Now, we also have Jupiter. Jupiter is the largest planet in our solar system. Jupiter is the planet of idealism and hope. It is energy, and it wants to move and to travel and to think of new ideas, and wants to share the ideas that it has learned from all of the travels that it has taken, all of the exploration, adventure. Now, Jupiter in Capricorn is a little bit softer than, say, Jupiter in Sagittarius, the sign that it rules. It is a little bit more hesitant, but Jupiter still has its energy to move forward and to, like the centaur, shoot up into the stars with hope and idealism and religious beliefs, with beliefs in general. It is as we look at these transitions of Pluto and Capricorn, and we see the greed, and we see Pluto is the ferryman that's pulling the dead from their place of resurrection and taking them to the underworld. It is it's exacerbating and the fanning the flames of this transition. It is ferrying things along faster and showing us the way, if you will, to a new form of thinking and a new ideology. And this definitely has to happen in Pluto in Capricorn. So I want to also point out Saturn is now back in Capricorn. All of these are retrograde, which essentially means they're going backwards in the 30 degrees of the sign of Capricorn. Saturn has been in Aquarius and just moved back into Capricorn. It's at 29 degrees. It will be at the same degrees as Pluto again, as Jupiter is now, essentially. Jupiter is only 30 seconds away from Pluto. So essentially it is really pushing that energy and, really calling that energy forth and creating a new ideology that, that needs to surface in this transformation that's happening with Pluto and Capricorn. Saturn is the planet that rules Capricorn. So the limitations and the structure that is part of Capricorn is also Saturn. Saturn is known as a malefic. And where we see Saturn, we see slowing it down. Where Jupiter is moving it forward, Saturn is saying, wait, 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 wait. We need to think about this. We need to strategize. We need to understand the systems better so that we can elevate ourselves to the top of the mountain. The mountain is the mountain goat and the sea goat are the two symbols, depending on who you ask, of Capricorn. I'm going to talk a little bit more about the sea goat. It's more of a traditional reference. So in addition to this transformation that's happening in Capricorn with the systems, we're showing and seeing and naming the corruption and the greed and what has been below the surface for a very long time. In this opposition between Cancer and Capricorn, we see our families are more important, right? So often Capricorn works too hard and is stoic and too responsible, and it can't allow its emotions. We have an opportunity with the moon in Capricorn for a softening, for an ability to allow the earth sign that is Capricorn to dive a little bit more below the surface. If we talk about Saturn as the symbols are the mountain goat or the sea goat, the tail of the goat, the front is a goat and the tail is a fish that's in the water. So that's really indicative of a deeper, softer version of Capricorn that I think in our time, in the last 2,000 plus years of the patriarchy, we have really abused Capricorn. We have accentuated the aspects of Capricorn that are less about Earth and more about the systems. And so now with Pluto and Capricorn, especially with Jupiter and with Saturn, I believe that we are seeing, and especially with the moon and this eclipse in particular, this eclipse is a time of great change. All eclipses are this opportunity where we can change something. And this eclipse references going back to 2018, when the nodes of the moon were in the opposition of Capricorn Cancer. So there's many, many changes that our society has been in that maybe started around this 2018 timeline. And specifically, I feel like the pandemic that we're dealing with right now is really exacerbating these changes that are needed in the sign of Capricorn. Specifically, not abusing ourselves and our earth. Capricorn is an earth sign. Finding that balance between allowing your emotions and allowing the stoic quality of being a leader. So there's this beautiful transition that's happening, and I really see that Capricorn is allowing, if our society can really just soften into that moon in Capricorn at this eclipse, which can affect you for roughly 6 months, that if you can soften into the reparenting that happens in this time, and even though, you may not have had the opportunity to parent anyone, as in you worked too much, so you had children at home, that weren't able to, that you weren't able to make it to dinner every night, or there was more time spent away from the family than with the family. So we see with this pandemic that there is strong bonds with family. And I want to point out that Pallas Athene is at 23 degrees Capricorn. I mentioned the patriarchy, and I've mentioned we know the historic revisions of all of the stories. We are seeing right now the many revisions that are necessary to our own histories. This is our history, the reality of who we are, the reality of what our country is, of who we are as people within a country. What is our history? That is not only relevant to the way that we view reality, as in what we have constructed as reality in Capricorn, but our history is very Cancerian. So Cancer has to do with the home, it has to do with the past. This opposition is really highlighting our care for one another and our care for the views of each other individually as it pertains to the history that we've written. If we think about Athena, so Pallas Athene is an asteroid, like I mentioned, alongside Vesta in Cancer, and Pallas Athene is at 23 degrees Capricorn, exactly conjunct Jupiter, and Pluto's at 24. Pallas Athena is the goddess warrior. She is a goddess warrior and a strategist. She rules handicrafts, so creating metals and strategy. She comes with integrity and justice. Different from Mars, which we are definitely going to talk about because of these red lines that are happening down to the bottom of the chart with Mars. And but Pallas Athene, she gives us strategy. She gives us wisdom. There are several stories based on which ones that you are looking at of Athena as as a wise goddess, as a leader, and those stories were revised to have her kill her sister and out of rage. And there are several myths that Athena has not received her due. And she is someone that is in this constellation. She is here in this presence. So if we take these archetypes of the moon, the mother, the nurturing, and Jupiter, this adventurous, idealistic explorer that just wants to know more and to share more, alongside Pluto, the god of the underworld, that is showing us and exposing the secrets, and Saturn, this inhibitor that is saying you have to understand the process before you can move forward and be methodical and be careful. But Athena is giving us this divine feminine power to understand that yin that is Capricorn. Capricorn is actually a feminine sign. And additionally, it is the goat and the fish tail that is partially on land and partially on water. It talks about balance. I see all of these as a beautiful balance that allows us to understand the depths of the earth sign that Capricorn is. So I'm gonna move now to talk about this T-square. So the opposition between Capricorn and Cancer is directly squaring Mars in Aries and Chiron in Aries. So Mars in Aries, Mars rules Aries. It is very comfortable in Aries. Mars is the god of war. And unlike Athena, that wants to strategize and have justice. Mars wants to compete for competition's sake with a lot of ego and a lot of force. With Mars in Aries, tempers are touchy at best, and tempers are hot. And so we have this, we see it in the world right now. We have people that really want to get out. They want to do their own thing. They want to be free. They want to do whatever they want to do without any recognition of others. So I like to think of squares as points, for instance, points on a rock that need to be smooth. If you're polishing a rock, these points need to be polished, and they're going to be polished because they create these scenarios that will push you to maybe really feel overly emotional at a time because people are pushing your buttons. And definitely we see this in our cultural instances right now where people are talking about freedom. Of course, this is July the 4th too. We think about our freedoms. And I also want to highlight that Mars is at 4 degrees Aries. Chiron is at 9 degrees Aries. So there's kind of a wide orb, but Mars is moving forward and it's going to be conjunct Chiron. Chiron is also a centaur, similar to Sagittarius, and interested in healing and teaching, and it is known as the wounded healer. The way that I like to think of Chiron is the underdog. I see Chiron as the aspects of you that are different, that are you're really unique in some beautiful way. But Chiron is overly sensitized to that uniqueness because of the oppression from the rejection of how that uniqueness makes you seen or possibly unseen. You don't want to be seen because you're so sensitive to that uniqueness. Now, with Mars conjunct Chiron, there is an energy of I am not able to be who I am because of the oppression and the rejection of who I am in society. What is needed is a very deep breath of recognition that I am going to fight for who I am, but using that energy of Pallas Athene and the wisdom and the justice and a little bit less of the Mars aggression and competition and warrior-like energy that fights for the competition of it. We need the thoughtfulness. We need the clarity of understanding that our hearts are what is most important with the sun in Cancer, that love for family and self is what is most important. Now, the next 6 months, Mars is going to be in Aries, and it's going to be at the same degrees of Chiron really very soon. And then we have Black Moon Lilith. Lilith is another figure throughout history that, well, simply Lilith was demonized. Lilith was, in some stories, the first wife of Adam. The stories about Lilith and Inanna go way, way back. So there are many myths that could go back, but we're going to go with, since this is the Black Moon Lilith point, it is not a planet or an asteroid or fixed star. It is a point that is based on the sun and the moon. And it's at 17 degrees Aries right now on July 4th, 2020. Black Moon Lilith in Aries. As I was saying, Black Moon Lilith was the first wife of Adam. Black Moon Lilith was an equal. She was a partner and she was a co-creator of the beginning of the world. She had strength and she liked her power. When the patriarchy decided that, and the world was being revised to make woman and the first wife of Adam a part of his rib, she refused. And she also didn't want to be submissive in the sexual act. Lilith was proud and had a voracious appetite for sex. She was woman. She was honest. She was wild. And she is the wild feminine that also is the healer and also is that recognizes that there is death and rebirth. There aren't hidden qualities in Lilith. And when the revisionists came to say, we're going to change this, she left Eve. I'm sorry, she left Eden. And now we have Eve as the, the wife of Adam in the Bible. So Lilith in history at that point, there are stories of that she was a demon and that she ate children. There were ongoing revisionist myths of how Lilith would come on into your house and eat your children. So it was really this ongoing smear campaign for the divine feminine that is wild and that is honest and true, and that recognizes that not every birth can happen, that recognizes that there is pain in the world and that accepts that, but also recognizes how to heal. And so, I think of the revisions of from the matriarchy world, which had its own challenges prior to the patriarchy, but Black Moon Lilith is a product of this revisionist theory and ideology. Now, again, just like Chiron, in some respects, Black Moon Lilith is similar to Chiron. It's sort of the feminine energy of Chiron. It shows where, in the way that I read charts, it shows me where a woman really, or rather a woman or a man, there's a feminine side that needs to be heard and needs to be seen, and it needs to be felt. It needs to experience its lust and its desire for both pleasure and pain. And in Aries, there's that initial, I want to do it now. So as Mars transitions through Chiron, where we recognize our unique energetic energy that is simply unique to us, it activates that instance of, I need to be seen for this specific energy, and it will push you to be your unique self. As it transitions more towards Black Moon Lilith in Aries, it also will activate this dark feminine that is, the healing witch, as well as the hag, right? In ancient times, the hag was a beautiful thing because there was wisdom in that. There was an honesty of the transitions of life and death and how to use the natural world, the natural laws, to work within our lives. Now, at 24 degrees, we have Eris. Eris is a very large, I believe Eris is a dwarf planet. And Eris is very, very far away. So it's going to be in Aries, and it has been Aries for all of our lifetimes. If you're listening to this way in the future, which I doubt will happen, then possibly Eris will be out of Aries. But for our entire lifetimes, anyone who's listening today, Eris will be and has been in Aries. Eris is the goddess of discord. And Eris likes blood. Eris is in Aries. And when Mars and Eris meet up in Aries, There is this masculine and feminine that is really tired and exhausted of being suppressed and oppressed, that join up in Aries and are ready to be seen and will fight for, basically Mars and Eris will fight to the death. They will fight for blood. Now, all of these are together. And so we can't just talk about Mars in Aries by itself. We have to consider this Chiron in Aries that is interested in this unique quality of self, and Black Moon Lilith in Aries that is the feminine that is ready to be seen and heal and have sex on top and experience and explore life in the natural laws that exist both for women and men, and as well as Eris, the goddess of discord. We have all of these things that are going to be in square with Pluto and Jupiter and Saturn for the rest of this year. And we have this square that's happening. I want to just pull back a little bit, and I want to talk about the nodes of the moon that are currently in the north node is at 29 degrees Gemini, and the south node is at 29 degrees Sagittarius. The North Node in Gemini. The North Node is sort of what we say is the karmic destiny. It has to do with the path that we really need to understand right now. And I love to include the asteroid Chaos. Chaos is at 26 degrees Gemini, and the North Node is at 29 degrees Gemini. Gemini is about communication. It is about everyday communication and the challenges that we have within our neighborhoods, the ways and the benefits that we have in our neighborhoods. So with North Node in Gemini, for the next 18 months, we are really going to be focusing, we really need to focus on supporting each other locally. There's some confusion around that with the asteroid Chaos there at 26 degrees, and the nodes of the moon go back and forth. Additionally, with Gemini, because it is about information and input, with the North Node in Gemini, there's a lot of information that we are trying to filter through. And luckily, in Gemini, we love it. It's a great time to study something new and to learn and to listen and to absorb as much as you can from local teachers, and also books. It loves books. It loves knowledge. It loves making things with its hands. Mercury is the ruler of Gemini, and so Mercury is currently retrograde. It is in Cancer at the moment. So with that addition of the way that what we're talking about in the family and really focusing on local with the North Node and Gemini, there's a really great attribute here to help us understand one another and support each other. Always opposite the North Node is the South Node. The South Node is at 29 degrees Sagittarius, and it is really close to the asteroid Lilith at 24 degrees Sagittarius. Now, similar to the Black Moon Lilith, it is the story of Lilith, but the asteroid Lilith has more to do with another fighter for the underdog. So the asteroid Lilith at 24 degrees Sagittarius is supporting the letting go of the ideologies from the past that no longer work for us. In addition to this revision of current systems within Capricorn, Sagittarius is about our belief systems. So now we have Jupiter here in Capricorn conjunct Pluto, and it's going to be moving. Saturn and Jupiter are going to be in Aquarius in December. So that gives you an idea of how fast they're going to move. But with South Node, the past, in Sagittarius, it is asking us to find better balance about the ideologies that we hold, to recognize that what we thought was truth may not be the truth. And in this opposition with North Node in Gemini, that truth is going to be found through communicating what you, and learning and communicating and listening to your local, listening to your family, listening to your siblings, listening, but with chaos there, I think that you're conveying information that is going to take a little while to filter. And this is an 18-month cycle. So we are just starting, even though it's at 29 degrees, the nodes move backwards. So it's going to go this way towards Scorpio. After about 18 months, it will be in Scorpio. So it is time for us to, it's time for us to communicate what it is that we truly believe, and to reassess our belief systems, to reassess what we've been told to believe, and to listen intently to our own voice, our authentic being, our authentic energies that tell us who we are as individuals. And I love that we have the asteroid Lilith in Sagittarius at 24 degrees. And additionally, the galactic center, which is not in here, is at 27 degrees. So, and the galactic center really opens our mind, and allows us to have, it allows us to hear what it is that is beyond the world that we've been told, the history, the dogma of the past. It allows us to hear what we really need to understand in this moment. So we have the sun and the moon at 13 degrees. The sun is at 13 degrees Cancer. The moon is at 13 degrees Capricorn. We have Ceres in Pisces. We also have Neptune in Pisces. It is a great time to ask for support from spiritual guides. The Earth, Ceres, is the goddess of agriculture, and also known as Demeter in Greek religions, or myths. And Ceres, like we think of cereal. So cereal is, well, used to be made of grains. Now it's mostly sugar, but which is, I think, appropriate to what we're talking about right now. What all has been revised from the original myths and the wholeness, the whole grain of what we need to understand. And with Ceres 12 degrees, which is a really positive aspect to this moon, there's an additional support to nurturing ourselves with natural law, with the earth, with going back to our harvest being local. And in Pisces, there's a spiritual component to that. Neptune in Pisces at 20 degrees, and it is in a supportive union here between the Capricorn energies, but really it's supporting us to go within, to find spirit, and to go within to allow a higher vibration that lets go of the control that absolutely all of these planets in Capricorn want to have. Neptune creates situations where we can be the monk or we can be the prisoner. And in Pisces, that's exactly what it's doing. So choose to be the monk, choose to raise your vibration and not get bogged down in the challenges that Neptune can provide. And even if you do choose the challenges, Neptune will bring you to a place where you will need to let go and let spirit. So let source, let God. Absolutely, Neptune in Pisces has to do with it has to do with viruses. It has to do with addictions. It also has to do with meditation and prayer and art and creativity and the subconscious. It is an opportunity for us to let go and to ask for support. And with Ceres in Pisces, near and especially at this full moon, it's really going into the natural laws of what can you grow with your own hands. And I think about the use of the hands with the North Node and Gemini, and Ceres is creating the abundance. So let's move forward to briefly talk about Venus in Gemini. Venus in Gemini, it's at 7 degrees, and Venus is what we desire. So thinking of Ceres and the Earth, and then also Uranus is in Taurus. So Venus rules Taurus, and Uranus in Taurus is really asking us, what do we want? What do we value in this moment? And there is a beautiful sextile or a really positive, energizing energy that is going from this Uranus and Taurus to our Sun, as well as the Mercury in Sun and Vesta in Cancer. So Uranus and Taurus is turning upside down everything that we value, from our financial systems to the situation that we find ourselves in, a pandemic where we are stuck at home and we don't have jobs to go to, possibly some of us. It is asking us to really assess what is valuable to you. And it is a time in Taurus where everything from the value of the things that we do in the world to how we and how much money we have in our bank account to how we feel about ourselves. What is the to your self-esteem? How do you value who you are and your body and this earth? So the beauty of Uranus is that it is really divine knowledge. Now, if you aren't open to the changes that Uranus will bring, then, and especially in Taurus, the bull that just wants to dig in the heels and not move from a spot. It is a fixed sign, it's an earth sign. It wants to just hang out in the field, but the field is changing. The field needs to be revised. It needs to be a divine field. So if we open to this beautiful earth energy and see the transformations, or just allow the transformations that Uranus, this divine knowledge, can bring down into our bodies, it'll be much easier for us to heal ourselves and to open to the beauty of what Uranus and this divine information can bring from the skies. Uranus was, the sky father in myth, and and the father of us all. So, you know, but this is it's humanitarian. It is the water bearer. There are so many beautiful things to think about Uranus and also Aquarius. And and just briefly, our Venus, which rules Taurus, is also asking us to communicate. Venus is in Gemini at 7 degrees. It's asking us to communicate what we want, what we really want. What do we really need? And with Uranus and Taurus, it's asking us to reassess all of that. So I think that feels pretty complete. I'm going to leave it at that, and I hope that this has given you, in these times, it is challenging. We are experiencing some definite revisions to our world. The most important point that I want to leave you with, and my intention for doing these, as well as the meditations that I do, is to help you find who you really are, to help you understand what your values are, to come back to spirit and come back to the natural law that is you, and to understand that you are unique. You are incredibly unique and beautiful in all your wild, competitive ways. And we've got so much beautiful support with Athena and Vesta and Lilith and Ceres, all really here to support us in this moment while we transform and sink back into the life that is here for us. And it does not need to be challenging. We can live a more comfortable life. We can be even with Mars and Aries, and even with Mars and Eris in Aries, we can be competitive and strong and brave and have courage to fight the fight that is unique to us and not the fight that somebody else has told us we should be fighting. Okay, so thank you so much for allowing me to share a little bit more about my views of the astrology of the moment. It is an incredibly powerful time, and I hope that this has given you some insights and some hope. I hope that you're able to join me during my meditation, July 5th at noon. I thank you for taking the time. It's an honor to be able to share my views with you. And if you would please like and subscribe, that'll help me grow this channel so that more people can be aware of what I have to offer in my unique way. Okay, thank you. Gratitude, peace, and so much love. Thank you.